Thank you so much for joining us for the Q&A for Shorts Program 1. We are very lucky to have a very international group with us here today. Let me reintroduce our guests. We've got Diana, director of Love, Dad, joining us from Prague. We've got Louise, director of The Death Cleaner, joining us from Paris. Alexandra, director of A Summer Place, joining us from Cyprus. And we've got Juliana, director of BABYBANGZ, joining us from London. So thank you all so much for joining us. We're so excited. We love your films. And I'm going to start with a question that I've been wondering. For some of you, this is the first time you're making a film as a director, and others, it's a few films under your belt. So I'm just curious what the process was like for you making this film. And did it go smoothly? Did you have any major hurdles? How did it go? And I'm going to start with Diana.
Hi. For me, it was the third short film I made, but also this was the third student film, my graduation one. So before that, I haven't done the professional short film yet. It's still all students. And this one was, for me, the first time it was hard in the development, harder than the production, which normally don't happen to me, but the production was smooth and it was easy to do.
Thank you. And Louise.
Hi. For me, everything went smoothly at the beginning. But what was the most difficult, I would say, it was to take some distance with the subject, as it was like really personal stories, and it was about death. So the really difficult part was to take some distance and not to be too much impacted by the story. But then everything was really smooth. And I was with the New York Times and Lady Bird Films, and everyone guided me with the editing, and so it was fine.
Thank you. And Juliana.
For me, I would say that the process of actually making was really fun. It was really intuitive. It was very much a collaborative process with myself and Anastasia, who is the kind of main character, as it were, of the short. It is the second kind of more standard type of documentary, in that my first film was more so an experimental exploration, which I just worked with by myself, whereas this was kind of more of a bigger thing, but again, exciting. I think maybe the difficulty I had was that the last day of shooting and filming was the day in which I had to leave New Orleans the day after. And so I kind of left New Orleans, and it felt like I left a second home behind due to the effects of the pandemic. And so I didn't look at it for a very long time, for months. And so I would say maybe the trying to reconcile with that sense of loss that I felt when I left maybe was the more emotionally harder part of it.
Thank you. And Alexandra, what was it like making the film? Did it go smoothly? Did you have any hurdles? How did it go for you?
Well, I mean, I'm very lucky in that I did it in October 2019. I had a producer who was really like hard pressing me to push it till April 2020. So I would have never made it if I had listened, but I kind of persevered. I mean, there were many difficulties because this was my first film with an actual budget, albeit small. So I had a boat scene, I had a party scene. There were so many things that could have gone wrong, but miraculously they went right.
Yeah, all of your films seem perfect, so you would never know if there were any issues with them. So thank you for those. So moving on, you all tackle some pretty heavy topics in your films. What made you decide to tell these stories? Like, why these stories? So Diana, you want to start us off?
Yes, I can. My story began when I found the letters of my father that he wrote me when he was in prison 1 year. And I was at the time 11 years old, but I completely forgot about these letters. And then I refound them again like 2 years ago. It surprised me that I find in the letters like so many emotion of my father, emotions of love that I don't see much now in his behavior to me as an adult girl. So that's why I was thinking about why the relationship changed. And yeah, that was basically the point where I start to have this idea to making this film.
Thank you. Louise?
Yeah, for me, I moved in Mexico in 2016, and I was completely fascinated by the spirituality of Mexican people and their intimacy they have with death. So I became just like obsessional with this subject, and I wanted to explore the question of mourning. And this is why I've met Donovan, and this is the main protagonist of my film. And it was just perfect to explore this subject because his job is not just cleaning the home of body fluid. He also helps people in their grieving and to move forward. So he's like a healer, a spiritual guide. And for me, it was the perfect character to explore the subject.
Yeah, thank you. Juliana?
So BABYBANGZ came about again through conversations I had with Anastasia after I had moved to New Orleans. I'm grappling with a sense of loss of not just community, but also loss of self on a very personal level. And so kind of being from the UK, also being Nigerian, and kind of now living in America, I was considering the ways or the spaces which I find have so many similarities and so many differences that just no matter where I go, they just feel the same. And the Black Hair Salon was that topic of conversation. And so Anastasia herself looks at BABYBANGZ. So BABYBANGZ is also the name of the salon. Looks at BABYBANGZ as a space of not just like of making hair, but as a space for community. Herself existing, as many women who kind of go there will tell you, she is very much a community leader. And so the idea in essence was, through the personal conversations that myself and Anastasia have, how could we encapsulate a time and place, and also the essence of what BABYBANGZ stands for in 12 kind of short minutes. And so I kind of looking back on reflection, I feel like the essence of Anastasia, as well as the spirituality of the space of New Orleans, and like that feeling of like warmth and comfort and the opposite of loneliness, whatever that is very much how I wanted to encapsulate it, and I was able to encapsulate it. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. And Alexandra, what made you decide to tell this story?
I really wanted to make a film about this very radical change in my hometown over the last 5 years. There's been a real estate boom because our way of jumping out of recession has been to start selling basically passports to oligarchs. And because I don't live here permanently, I come and go every couple of months, and it really does feel like an unrecognizable place for me. And I wanted to tell the story through the eyes of someone who is Greek and lives here, so kind of a similar culture, but not precisely that. And I mean, always in my work, I like to play a little puzzle with ideas. I had the idea of a character, and when I decided to land her in this surreal town, I just wanted to see how she would react, and this is what came out of it.
Thank you. Yeah, all of your films are very strong in a number of ways. One of the things that I love about them is, you know, kind of the place and the setting that you guys all kind of explore in your films. So I'm curious a little bit about, what is it like to capture the culture and places explored in your projects? How do you go about doing that? And was it challenging for you? We'll start again with you, Diana.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. So how the culture plays in, like, infect me in my work, or?
Yeah, like for your film, you know, obviously we get a sense of, you know, kind of who you and your father are based on the letters, but we also get a sense of kind of like the location where you guys are at, the culture of your community. So was it hard to kind of translate that to film, or did it just kind of come naturally?
I think it comes naturally because the film is autobiographical, and even it's like it's just about like Vietnamese community somehow with Czech mentality or something like that, then I think the film is still like really understandable for every culture, because there's like issues with the boy and girls as a child. So I think that everybody heard of this like issue, even they don't experience by their own. So I don't yeah, so I was not thinking actually much about that. It just come naturally.
Cool, thank you. Louise.
Me, I knew little about Mexican culture and Mexico City, as I lived there for 1 year. But the truth is that I never expected to dive so much into the intimacy of someone's death, and I didn't expect that it would be such a strong and like a mystical shooting. So it was kind of amazing and also a confusing experience, because the setup of the house, it was a really strong atmosphere, really strange and really particular, because someone died there and the body stayed a long time. So yeah, it was kind of a very strong experience and mystical.
Yeah, thank you. Juliana.
I would say that I didn't necessarily find it difficult as so prior to moving to New Orleans. When I eventually did, I had spent some time beforehand. I worked on another project, a photographic project, and one thing you really quickly learn, and I guess this applies to anything really you do when working with any type of community, is the importance of accountability and the importance of permission. In that those from Louisiana, you know, specifically those who were affected by Hurricane Katrina, will often have experienced this thing of people kind of coming in, taking intellectual property based on their own personal agendas and not necessarily giving back in any kind of way. And so when approaching this, I knew that in the first instance, it would have to be a process of decentering myself. And yes, I'm an artist and I have a vision of how I wanted it to look. But in the first instance, it was ensuring that I had permission from Anastasia to do that. And, you know, asking her how she felt about edits, asking questions about, you know, building a trust so that she was able to get to a place where she could trust my creative vision. And then we did get there. But I wouldn't say it felt like hard work. It just felt like building a relationship with someone who I can still consider a very close friend. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And Alexandra.
I mean, for me, the film is so much about Limassol, but it's just that my motivations changed over the creative process of making it. So it started for me coming from a very angry place of what is happening to this hometown. I feel like it feels like strange to me. And then out of nowhere, and I think that even the result on the film itself is kind of a love poem, because the nostalgia and my real feelings toward the town, I think, capture it in a beautiful light, even amidst the ugliness and all that the film criticizes. So it's a love poem, and it's also an elegy to it, because when I was filming all these parts of the town, I've never seen it. It constantly changes so much that it just felt like capturing it at that particular moment of time, and that's it. Now there's even more high-rise buildings, more real estate boom. It's almost like a documentary, even though it's not.
Yeah, you definitely capture a time and place and you'll never get that back. So it's good to have it on camera. So all of your films are very skillful, obviously, in the way that you are telling your stories. And I'm just kind of curious, what is it that you love about being a filmmaker? Why make films? I know it's kind of a big, heavy question that you have to answer in like a few seconds, but Diana, do you want to start for us?
Yeah, it's pretty hard questions. I have to say that when the film is successful, then I think to be a director is really privileged profession. Like I feel it is a great profession, because you can have this all of like this efforts, but also when it's not going well, everything is on your head. And I think it can be a really stressful profession too. And what I love about it is, I think, more than the cooperation with the other crew, the team members, because I really like the connection between the film profession, and they are all in the same place to do this one film, which is yours. And yeah, I think that's what I like about filmmaking, that bringing people together to make one film. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Louise?
I think that what I love the most is to discover a universe that are really like far away from who I am and what I know in my daily life. I like to put myself in the shoes of the people I meet and try to understand them, try to understand their history and their way of thinking. And I like to get out of my comfort zone and to think differently. And then I love to translate their story with my own words and to use my imagination and my gaze to put their story into images. I really like the process. That's what I
Thank you. Yeah. Juliana.
Yeah, this is such a tough question. I guess for me, because sometimes the majority of my feeling towards filmmaking is stress and anxiety and frustration. But there is definitely this catharsis that I feel once it's like the pieces of my mind are created within the context or seen within the context in the which I intended for them to be seen. At least, for example, with BABYBANGZ, for me, the feeling of greatness came when Anastasia saw it for the first time and kind of hearing her response and that feeling of like I had done what I aimed, or I was successful in that way, is where maybe I find the most joy. But the process of actually making is, oh boy, yeah, it's something else. But yeah.
Thank you. And Alexandra.
I mean, I think to orchestrate something and a story and get people on board, people excited enough to join you on this adventure is just pure magic. I love the fact that no day is ever the same. I mean, it's a pretty schizophrenic job, but it's you get to play with people in different universes. So there's nothing I love more. And I would even say that the process of creating a film, I'm a person who enjoys the process more, to the fact that so many people come together and they become your family for the time that you're making the film. These are the most important people in your life. It's a truly beautiful connection that is just so magnificent. And it makes all the stress worth it after all.
That's so true. Yeah. We have time for one more question. And I think that leads me into it. I'm just a little curious, like what did you learn about yourselves making these films? They're all very personal in different ways, you know. So did you learn anything that you were surprised about yourself during this process? Diana?
Yeah, actually this question is pretty easy for me because I found it sorry, like it was a therapeutic for me, because I was more searching in my feelings, which I would not do without this film, without this development and the script. Then also the film, it has this effect on me, and it was great, and I wasn't like expect that. So
thank you. Louise?
I think it changed me a lot also. It has also this therapeutic effect on me. And I don't know how, but yeah, it changed the way I see the subject of mourning and the subject of death. And I thinking of this every time. So yeah, it changed me a lot.
Thank you. And Juliana?
I would say the process of making the film kind of has shifted the way in which I view what it actually means what a safe space actually means, and the importance of safe spaces for me on the personal level, because I think it's very easy to claim to provide safety, but not many people actually know how to do that. And so looking more introspectively, and also being honest with myself about like who I am as a filmmaker, and what I'm honestly genuinely interested in, what I'm not interested in, and how I could just learn to just like trust myself almost, to work more instinctively. I think before this I had barely any trust for myself, and I was more thinking distantly. But I learned that once I'm honest with me, then it becomes easy for anyone to trust you, and the honesty then comes out in the work. So yeah.
What a great lesson. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What about you, Alexandra?
Well, the first thing you told me is that I actually can do it, because it was the first short film that had that was large in scale. It was the first proper production where I wasn't doing everything, so I had a lot to prove to myself. So that was the first huge relief. And then the second is that it gave me a huge confidence in following my instinct, because a lot of the choices I made in the film were very much a product of my own gut feeling on how the story should be told, and whether they were right or wrong, I'm glad it reaffirmed my ability to stick with them, because I think ultimately that's what makes you a strong filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you all gave some really good advice to budding filmmakers on how to be a successful filmmaker. So thank you so much. Our time is over, unfortunately. I want to thank you so much for being here today with us. And thanks to our audience as well. Please tell your friends to watch all of our amazing short films at AFI Fest. We're so proud of them. They're available to screen throughout the festival, both online throughout the festival, and then just look online to see when they're happening in person. And we'd also love to hear from you on social media. So use our hashtag AFI Fest. Join us for more great films and virtual events and in-person events. For ways to interact with us at fest.afi.com. So thank you all so much, and we'll say goodbye.